We are looking at poverty today. This first video is to understand the nature of poverty. Know that chronic exposure to poverty changes the brain physically in detrimental ways. All right, so let us take a look at it. And here's some of the areas that we are going to look at, just to give you an overview here. But part one is understanding the nature of poverty. So let's define our terms. A condition where people's basic needs for food, clothing, and shelter are not being met. Absolute poverty means there's a scarcity of running water and food. And I like this definition, a chronic and debilitating condition that results from multiple adverse synergistic risk factors. They're not simply one thing. Oftentimes, it's a harmonic convergence of a lot of things. It affects the mind, body, and the soul. Absolute poverty, again, is people cannot obtain adequate resources to support a minimum level of physical health, measured in terms of calories or nutrition. Destitution occurs, a scarcity of food and running water, as we said. And relative poverty is people do not enjoy a certain minimum living level of living standards as determined by government or societal averages here. And then situational poverty caused by a sudden crisis or loss, disaster, sickness, divorce, death. This is temporary, but it can lead to or cause health problems as well. Why are we concerned about poverty? Well, for a lot of reasons, but for children and in education specifically, poverty is related to four risk factors. It is related to the children. Now, with children, this is the focus: emotional and social challenges, acute chronic stressors, cognitive lags, and health and safety issues. And we will be looking in this. Now, children living in poverty tend to spend less time finding out about the world and more time just trying to exist in it. Common issues in low-income families. Within the family, they're dealing with a lot of stuff: depression, chemical dependence by one adult or more, hectic work schedules. They simply don't have time. They're trying to make the ends meet. There is more stress in the factor. All factors that interfere with healthy attachments and healthy cognitive development. Children living in poverty tend to have a tendency to greater than average poor academic performance, behavior problems, dropping out of school, and drug problems. Now, these things are cyclical, meaning that they tend to rule out college, meaning that tend to have a lower level of income, leading to more poverty. And it's not always that people living in poverty are less able, but people living in poverty have a lot more issues to deal with, and poverty does affect cognitive development and emotional development. Poverty at school correlates significantly with children's academic success, especially in preschool and kindergarten. All right, these standardized test scores that we trot out and publish in the newspaper, they are more a reflection of parents' level of income and education than they are anything related to school or teacher success. It correlates with it. And now, it doesn't mean that poor people aren't as capable. And again, it means that there are factors when you're dealing with poverty that prevent students from reaching their full potential. For example, when compared to non-poverty peers, poor children are more likely to attain poorly maintained schools with less qualified teachers. They live in these areas that don't generate as much taxes, and as well have less adequate daycare, preschool. These are all things that affect cognitive development. And oftentimes there are behavior outbursts related to poverty, especially chronic exposure to stress and poverty. How common is it? Let's take a look at some numbers. And you don't need to memorize these numbers. Just know that it exists whether you are aware of it or not. above low income, nearly poor, and 22% of the children living in this country are dealing with poverty. 72 million children under the age of 18, 44% low income, 22%, 15.8 million live in poverty. In Minnesota, 2008, 13%, and Wisconsin, 15%. The number means that in Minnesota, living in poverty, 166,000. In Wisconsin, 192,000. Facts from the National Center for Children in Poverty: 16 million children. Again, there's that 22%. Most of these children have parents who work. But with low wages, unstable employment, it leaves the family struggling. Here are some factors again. Adolescents living in low income. All right, this is percentage. Elementary age children, percentages again, near poor and poor. There's 18, that's elementary, 6 through 11. Young children under the age of 6, near poor, 20, and this is 2007, so it's gotten a little higher, 2013. And infants and toddlers, 21%, and we're about up to 25%. Near poor and poor. And again, in Minnesota, approximately 176, and you can see the rates of increase here from 2000 to 2010. And you can see where poverty occurs. All right, the dark areas are the heavy areas of poverty. Here I am in Blue Earth County. Here's where it is most prevalent. And in Wisconsin, again, the higher than state poverty rate, you see way up there and down here. And then childhood poverty in Minnesota by year. This is children under the age of 5. It's getting more. And children under the age of 18. So you can see that poverty, number of children, is increasing. All right, that is the end of part 1.